So what was the Mark Norman case all about? The previous Conservative government signed a contract with Quebec's Davie shipyards to convert the MV Asterix, a commercial container ship, into a naval supply ship. For some reason, the current Liberal government tried to delay the project and were unsuccessful. Davie shipyards delivered the retrofitted ship on time and on budget. This cost $659 million, and this is all because of Mark Norman. Mark Norman, pretty much the number 2 guy in the Royal Canadian Navy, was charged with a single count of a breach of trust of allegedly leaking confidential information about the MV Asterix project to an acquaintance at Davie Shipyards as well as a CBC reporter, all during 2015. Now this is a big deal because if the Liberals didn't sign the deal when they got into power, which was negotiated under the previous Conservative government, the taxpayer would be on the hook for hundreds of millions of bucks worth of penalty fees to compensate for Davie Shipyards for already buying the ship. This is back in 2017, where Norman was relieved of duty by General Jonathan Vance, Chief of the Defense Staff. A year later, on March 9, 2018, he was finally charged. And Norman's like, okay, I'll lawyer up, give me all the relevant documents on the case, and it's thus the government's job to release all information and documents, confidential or otherwise, to get this case going. Now remember, this is a $659 million project. A lot of government bodies are involved in this. Now, the state, or the prosecutor in this case, was the PMO, or the Prime Minister's office, who called in the RCMP to investigate. And it is they and their lawyers of each government body who determine what evidence is used in discovery, what is confidential, what is relevant, etc. And the defense was just doing its job, sending out emails and all sorts of requests to get the necessary documents. There were 52 requests made to 7 government bodies since October of 2018. It just never occurred. And the response from the various government bodies was always something like, we don't know, we haven't made a decision, we're still getting all the necessary documents going. Apparently the Justice Department brought up 135,000 documents, and that eventually came down to 10,000 this spring. Well, this goes on for at least 6 months. So imagine being accused of something for 2 years and having no material to defend yourself or to even understand what happened. I don't even know if he was suspended with pay during the first year. You can't build a case, and you don't have all the facts. Everything is up in the air. You've got massive legal fees coming in, and multiple branches of the government are your opponent here. All for being a guy who served his country since the 80s. And this is all because the existing Liberal government felt bad about signing a check the previous Conservative government negotiated on a project delivered on time, on budget, and on the most important role government has, which is defense. So, during this time, the prosecution was tainted by political motivations. It appeared the government was interfering with the defense's ability to defend themselves, from obstructing disclosures to having Justice Department lawyers inappropriately coach the prosecution's witnesses. So, the defense subpoenaed every document they thought might show inappropriate political involvement in the case. This included phone and email conversations of top figures in the government, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his staff in the PMO. They brought a witness to the stand in December saying the code names were used for Norman and the Asterix project, meaning people looking for data in each department of the government couldn't find anything. This prompted another series of witnesses, big names like General John Vance, the Chief of the Defense Staff, and Zita Astravas, the Chief of Staff to the Defense Minister and former Director of Issues Management for the PMO, who deals with crisis managements like this. In February, the defense alleged that the Privy Council were talking about trial strategy with federal prosecutors in a manner that was worse than the political interference with the SNC-Lavalin affair. Yes, Michael Vernick was involved yet again, who wrote some memo to the Prime Minister, but of course, they denied such behavior. In April, the defense challenged redactions on a series of memos involving staff in the Prime Minister's office, arguing they likely weren't covered by solicitor-client privilege, as they claimed. This was eventually going to lead up to an alleged abuse of process, arguing political interference, which had damaged Norman's right to a fair trial. But because the Crown prosecutors dropped the case, that will never happen. So we don't know exactly why the prosecution dropped the case. This happened roughly 2 days before it was announced that Liberal MP and former Army Commander Andrew Leslie was offered to be a witness, as well as General John Vance. That would have been a member of Liberal caucus arguing on behalf of Norman against the current Liberal federal government. Kind of makes you think what's going on here. But it is possible we could know what happened if Norman files a civil lawsuit and then we can discover what was really going on as why the case was abandoned in the first place. Norman started in the Navy in 1980 and rose in the ranks to become Vice Chief of Defense Staff. He does all the heavy lifting on projects and management. This has been a 2-year-long case, and the federal government is paying for his legal fees over this time. This stay eliminates the conditions that caused me to relieve Vice-Admiral Norman from his military duties in January of 2017, said Vance in a statement. In that context, Vice-Admiral Norman and I will be discussing his return to regular duty at the earliest opportunity. This decision ends court proceedings that have been a long and difficult process for Vice-Admiral Norman, his family, and for the Canadian Armed Forces. Vance continued, adding that, "We have missed Vice-Admiral Norman a great deal, and I look forward to welcoming him back to work as soon as possible."